we'll just carry on. Kind of a mix of alternative, I think. Ooh. That light just popped. I hope it's still alive. Greetings and salutations. My name is Korpas, and welcome to my sanctuary. To those of you new here, you're very, very welcome. I hope you like it here. Stick around. Like some of my other videos. Like this video. Comment down below. Possibly consider subscribing to the channel. And to those of you who already do subscribe to the channel, thank you so much for all your support. I'm loving all the comments, and answer some of these questions I will be answering in the video down below as well. And I will think of who to tag towards the end of it. But this will be a tag video. I was tagged by Sanniz. Thanks, Sanniz. Who is an awesome YouTuber from Sweden. I will link her here and link her down in the description below. She's awesome, do check her out. Thank you again for tagging me. And this will be the goth tag, which is something I'm kind of scared to approach, because, well, you know, you do have to tag yourself here and there, but I'm not really sure how I actually fit that label. But I've watched a few of these now, and I watched a few of these over the years as well, and there are people who are kind of like me in a few respects, so hopefully we'll just get on with it, and you decide. The questions are actually preset, and there's 10 of them. Question number 1. How long have you been goth? Well, I'm not entirely sure what year it was, but I've always liked metal and sort of things like, I guess, the style of Addams Family and Halloween and things like that. And not just, you know, for Halloween. I am happily sort of to prolong that always. Like, I've always been kind of like that, I guess. I've always liked the style ever since I saw it, and I've just been very into it, but I think I can pinpoint the moment where I just kind of fell in love with, I guess, darker things. Already listening to, I guess, lots of more metal-y music. I don't think I've heard anything that was goth apart from, I don't know, some things can be classed as goth, and I've heard it played at goth parties, like maybe some earlier Depeche Mode things, but I've always liked the Depeche Mode period when it was more rock rather than anything, but I guess some people class it as goth here and there, so I don't know. I've heard probably The Cure, but I've never liked The Cure. I don't like it now. I've never liked it. I've never listened to it. I've probably heard by then certain things. I never heard of music being goth at that point in time, I guess. But I can pinpoint the moment where I went, oh my god, this is the coolest style, and clothes anyway, that I've ever seen in my entire life. And just in, you know, the way people were. And it was in London in my early teens in Kensington Market, which no longer exists, and it had the downstairs floor with the coolest shoes in the world. It had, you know, New Rocks, and it had Doc Martens and all that sort of thing, but I wasn't even interested in the shoes at that point. But there's this one store that had everything black, black roses, everything, and they had this display, and this is the first time I've seen Alchemy Gothic. I went in, I saw Alchemy Gothic and all the little coffins it was in, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. I remember that moment. I went back there religiously. I didn't have much money then, because we were like still in school and didn't get a lot of pocket money, but I did buy, you know how they have the big bat pendant? I have like a tiny one. I still have it, treasure it, love it. That was the first Alchemy I've ever bought. And then I guess I started listening to stuff, and at the time it was pretty big, like Raw magazine and Kerrang magazine, and they started coming out with these things like, I know, Typo Negative a lot, and like Marilyn Manson and things like that, which is not technically goth, but it's kind of goth rock, and that made me listen to more. Then I found out about goth, I guess, and I started listening to that as well, and I had like Fields of the Nephilim. I think I had a few CDs. We now have a few records of that, and stuff like that. So I did have it as a subset of what I listened to, but predominantly, if we're talking about goth, it's probably more goth metal that I would have been into, and I listened to a lot of things like that. So that's probably when, around early to mid 90s, I would say that I really started getting into it. So I think that answer just answered pretty much question 2 of how you were introduced to goth. Like I said, it was mainly through starting to listen to gothier metal and reading about a lot of bands that I sort of found out about bands in the more of goth sort of subgenre. And what gothic subgenre would you put yourself in is question number 3. And as I said, it's probably the metal, the goth metal, that would be probably more of my go-to. Like I said, I don't like The Cure. I like some of the electronic stuff as well, and I used to go back, again, it's probably early or mid 2000s, I used to go to lots of parties when I was still in Moscow. Before I went to New Zealand, I went to goth parties that had lots of stuff playing, and they had bands coming in and things like that that I used to listen to. I can't even remember some of those bands anymore, but there was like heaps of electronic stuff that went on, and I went to quite a few of them. I think, was it Das Ich? I think so, yeah, one of the bands that like I really listened to for a while. I haven't, then I sort of buried that for a very long time. I didn't even go to metal for a very long time because I got fed up with, I've always gone to these things alone. Like, I never had any friends for some reason for long periods of time that would actually go to the same gigs. I can count probably fingers on a couple of hands, but I've been to a lot of gigs, okay? So, you know, if I can only pinpoint 10 gigs where I went to with friends, that's kind of sad, okay? But nobody was ever into the same music. I think once in school when we were really getting into typo, I had a group of friends, there was like 3 of us that were into it, and we looked kind of the same, and we had like, we were kind of the craft of the school. Only then I think I had some sidekicks, and that was about it. And I think the only reason I look like this now is because I again started when I kicked all my bad habits, and I started going back to listening to music and actually, you know, remembering gigs instead of just sort of starting the gig and never remembering what the hell happened, as used to be my go-to back in the day. I actually started appreciating, you know, dressing up more and, you know, actually looking like I appreciate the gig and I make an effort to go to it and I look the part because I want to enjoy the thing. I want to look good for the evening and feel good about myself and not, you know, wake up the next morning thinking, did I even go? So, and also partly the reason why I kind of went back to it as well was because, well, I found a person to go with, and that was one of my criteria. Yes, don't look at me like that. One of my criteria for finding a partner was, well, he obviously has to have long hair, that's a must. And the second was he has to be into metal or something that I could relate to, because otherwise it's just not gonna work. Like, I got so fed up with going on my own. I wanted someone who would share the same passion. It's always been one of the main things in my life, and why the hell not, you know? And now we go to these things together, and it's fucking amazing. I've never had that. That's great, you know? We have, you know, stuff like that. I mean, it's amazing. That was made by a dude we listen to who's a great singer. Isn't that amazing? I mean, I never would have had any of this if it weren't for him. So that's also really awesome. What do you believe to be the basis of the goth subculture? Which is question number 4. Well, everyone says it's the music, and that's probably true. I think it's somewhat evolved since then. And when I talk about it, I mainly, what I really mean by it, I don't necessarily mean, I guess, it's just an easier way to describe to me what someone looks like. Because that, the style of music does not really, I guess, define your style in clothing. I've seen quite a few people at gigs around here that look absolutely like there's nothing to say that they're alternatively any way apart from their music taste. So to me it's more, I guess, a mix of what someone kind of expresses themselves as, like in clothes and then general style that they wear, along with the music. But yeah, I think it's now more evolved even towards the fashion more than anything else, that people kind of pinpoint that person is goth or emo or whatever just by looking at them. I mean, it's probably not accurate, and you know, you don't have to think this, but to me, I'm more really of a metaler, I guess, but I just tend to look like this, and this probably is positions towards more a goth look, but I don't really care, okay? So I'm not sure if I even deserve the label. Probably not, but this is what I feel like, I guess. So I guess we're into self-identification these days. So who's to say? Who's to say? My choice. 5. What do you dislike about being goth? Well, I can tell you that it's really freaking hard to do a trad goth makeup look. It is for people like me with hands growing out of their backside that can't draw a straight line with an eyeliner is next to impossible. But no, seriously, there's nothing that I don't really like. I mean, I pretty much like the look. I barely ever get people, you know, saying anything to me or staring at me or whatever, probably because I'm just generally an intimidating person regardless of what I look like. Most people are scared of me even when I'm not made up or anything, so I'm really cool with everything. And mind, I've moved to a way more conservative country around these things, and I so far haven't had issues really. I mean, a few people looked at me, so what? I mean, no big deal. 6. What do your parents think of it? Well, they were not happy, I can tell you that right now, because I came home one day from that Kensington market, by the way, bad influence Kensington market, and I kind of went like this, like, look what I've done. And I've had, like, I already got my parents to take me to a nice salon when I was about 13 or 14 or something, and we got my ears pierced, like, properly. It cost a shit ton, and it was done properly, la 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 la, so I already had, like, one hole each. And then I went to Kensington Market, and they had that gun thing that cost, like, I don't know, £3 for 3 holes or whatever, and I pierced 2 extra holes here and 1 here, and I had all these earrings in, and I come in and I show my parents, and they're like, go, "Rah!" They were so pissed off. They thought it was like totally unhygienic, although it was like a one-use sort of thing. I don't know, I think it was fine, there was nothing wrong with it. It did kind of hurt like hell because I had like 2 done at the same time, fairly close together. I barely use them these days, but I did have all of them in at one time for quite a long period of time, and sometimes I remember and do it up, but in general I just can't be bothered anymore because I can't really sleep in earrings, so I have to take them out and put them back in, and it's really annoying. I can barely sleep in rings, let alone earrings. I'm just not one of those people who can bear jewelry all the time, and some people actually sleep in necklaces, rings, and earrings and everything. I can't do that. To me, that's just an alien thing just stuck in my ear. I just can't do it. But yeah, I don't know. They weren't happy. I think my father would have had like a heart attack if I got a tattoo. Luckily, I never wanted a tattoo. I think at first I wasn't too opposed to the idea, but I couldn't think of anything I'd like, and then I kind of realized, well, I just don't really want one, and I've told you in some other videos before, I think, is how I do my makeup for videos and stuff. I do the makeup, and then if my mother is around, I go and say, hey mom, look at my makeup, and she goes, oh my god, that is terrifying. I said, great, that's the look I'm going for. So that's how I usually test it. So sometimes she actually admits that some looks I do are actually cool looking regardless, but most of them she just goes, oh my god, aren't you too old for this sort of shit? And just looks at me like I'm nuts. And then when we unpacked all our stuff, she's just like, huh. And every time she sort of visited us in New Zealand, she'd come in and we'd get like more coffin-shaped things on walls in our bedroom. Like, we kept it to our bedroom, to be fair. We had a few skulls here and there, but all the coffin stuff, like we had coffin mirrors, coffin shelves, all the black stuff, all the creatures, everything, we had that confined to the bedroom usually. And she'd like come in and go, oh great, you got more coffins, congratulations, you know, you're all prepped for the underworld. And yeah, so yeah, but she just laughs now. I mean, I'm 42, like, come on. You can't do much about that now. Okay, question 7, this is gonna be a quick one. Eyebrows or no eyebrows? So, these are mine, all mine. You know why? Can't really draw. I can't commit to drawing these every day, I just can't. I don't think I'll ever shave them off, ever, because, you know, some of you do, and you have the coolest, I always envy people who draw these thin, perfect, stunning lines, and it looks incredible, but I'd have to practice for years, so for me that's like a no-go. What is your favorite band, is question number 8. What in general, what genre? Well, since we're talking about goth, let's stick to what is my favorite goth band. Like clear-cut goth? Depends on what you class again as goth. So The Cure is out, Fields of the Nephilim, yes. Bauhaus, we do have a few records, can't say I listen to it non-stop. Susie and the Banshees, I quite like. Again, don't listen to it every day, but you know, we have records and stuff of that. What else? We have The Birthday Party. Again, I'm not sure how goth that is. I like Joy Division a lot. Again, I wouldn't necessarily class it as goth. I freaking love Depeche Mode. I've been to gigs of Depeche Mode. Again, is that street goth? I don't know. I freaking love Typo Negative. I love gothic rock as a genre. I have probably quite a few things around that. And yeah, I guess that's sort of, if I had to think of something that I really associate with goth, to me that's gonna be probably more Typo Negative, really, than any straight goth music ever, because that gives me that feeling of, you know, dark romanticism. 9 is a controversial one. What is your opinion on Marilyn Manson? Well, I don't know the guy as a person, and I wasn't at any of the court cases, and who knows what the hell he did, but I can tell you back when Antichrist came out, which was like in 96, that was like literally the coolest album to a lot of people. I went to a gig and I was just like hugely into it. My parents hated Manson. Thought it was just like the ugliest thing ever, and it kind of is in a way, but I guess that's a bit of the point of it. I think Sweet Dreams is one hell of a cover. I think there's quite a few original songs that are just insanely well done, and a lot of that is due to Trent Reznor producing that album. I love Manson's work on the soundtrack to Lost Highway. That is one of the best films ever made, frankly, because I still don't understand it to this day, and I've rewatched it a few times thinking, now I'm older, I'll get it. No, I don't. And that has like, the first time I heard Rammstein was off that Lost Highway soundtrack in 97, and yeah, like, Manson had so many amazing songs back in the day. Then it kind of went downhill, Would I go to it now? I don't know, but I mean, back in the day, you have to admit the guy was like a freaking prolific artist, created the sound all of his own, and yeah, I mean, people were massively into it, and everyone says now I've always been, I don't buy it, okay? Like, everyone was massively into it from near enough day one, and a lot of people still listen to it now. I don't listen to it every day, but I do have tracks. Come on, do I switch them off? No. And number 10, what were your baby bad days like? So, again, it's kind of tricky to answer, but I guess the period that I think of when I think of that is a period when I actually started, you know, dressing a bit more dark and things like that, and listening to, I guess, including Manson and like Typo Negative and more sort of that kind of side of music, and I think that included Fields of the Nephilim around that time as well. And we actually attempted, so that's when I actually had, you know, friends that were kind of into it as well, and there was 3 of us, and we all had the same model of boots in different colors. Mine were cherry red. I still have them. They're called Gladiators. They're kind of like Grinders, but, you know, just called Gladiators. It's probably a brand no longer around for God knows how old. I bought them in like 96 or 97. They're still alive. I gig in them because they have steel toes. Best boots ever, protect your feet. Amazing. I think both of my friends now lost them. One because I think she drowned them in the river a couple of times and they just fell apart after that. And the other one, I don't know, I think she just hung up her boots and, you know, done away with all this kind of life and lives now on a tropical island somewhere with her family. And I speak to her occasionally. Hi, if you're watching. I'd love to talk to you again sometime. But yeah, I think she sort of gave it all up ages ago. And I gave it all up as well after that. But, you know, I kind of came back and I don't think either of them did. But we had such a good time. We had a freaking great time. We were all under 18. We all went to pubs. We all got drunk. It was lots of fun, and we went to all these gigs together, and we attempted to get into this goth club, and we got in. We just spotted a bunch of people with black lipstick heading there, and we had our black lipstick prepared. We were too scared to wear it in public transport. Well, I was anyway. I think they actually wore it. I was the person who was most scared to wear it. And then we saw all these people, and I thought, okay, give me that black lipstick. I feel much better now. So yeah, and we got into that club, and it was kind of like an underground one. You can bring your own stuff, and we saw this tiny dude carrying like all these bottles of red wine, because, you know, that's what goths drank, and they had the red wine and the cigarettes and everything. And I think I definitely smoked. I don't think either of them smoked, but I smoked back in the day. It was amazing. Like, it was so amazing to get into something like that. And, you know, that was the first time I ever went to a goth club. And yeah, I haven't been to anything like that really since, because I've been to parties since then, but I haven't been to anything like that, and we were probably about 16 or 17, so it was quite remarkable to get in. Really, it was in London. And yeah, I mean, we had an amazing time together. Kind of like, we didn't quite know what we were doing, and we didn't know the history of anything or the genre as such, but we just, you know, sort of tried to dress the part, and it kind of looked silly probably most of the time, and it was a great time. I loved it. Anyway, that was all 10 questions, so, you know, am I goth? Am I not goth? Who the hell cares? I love dressing like this. I love listening to a variety of music. Will I always like all things dark, Halloween, bats, spiders, fluffy spiders? Do you like fluffy spiders? I love them. And yeah, I love gothier rock. I love some straight goth, some electronic goth, and stuff like that. So, you know, class it as you will, and I hope you let me know down below what you think goth is. I'm sure you think it's based on music. I mean, pretty much everyone does, and I kind of agree with you. But yeah, let me know your opinion down below, and let me know what band you would class as the gothiest band ever. What to you would be the absolute, like the absolute of goth music, because I'd really like to know, so let me know. And I hope you have a pleasant time of day wherever you are. Hope you enjoyed this video, and greetings and salutations too.